Hey guys, welcome to another video. It's kind of a first for me, putting out two videos so close together. Usually it takes me a few weeks or even longer in between projects, but I started working on this one while I was making the 250th anniversary US lamp while waiting for the glue to dry and stuff like that. So I was working on this one at the same time. And the reason I made this project was because I've been having a lot of back issues lately and had to go over to the ER a couple of times just for severe back pain. Found out I have mild degenerative disc and sciatica in my lower back. And so decided I would do this project mainly because I was thinking I'm getting old, maybe have to use a walker or a cane later on. I don't know. I do have a hard time standing and still for a long time without my lower back hurting. And so decided to do this project after kind of getting into the history of walking canes and everything. Was a status symbol after the king had outlawed swords, men to carry swords in England. They started carrying canes, and some had swords in them as a carried them as a status symbol, and ornate canes, plain canes, sword canes, all different types of canes, and just thought, it was a gentlemanly type of accessory to have, and figured I'd like to have one maybe one day. And I did have one that I bought on vacation a long time ago. Was this one here. Was on vacation, bought it from a souvenir shop, and it is a sword cane. And this one kind of gives me, Jafar vibes, maybe a little Lucius Malfoy. And I like it, but figured I'd make one that was a little more to my style. And after having met Peter Mayhew a couple of times and talking with him and stuff and seeing his cane, I was like, why not make a lightsaber cane? And went with Anakins lightsaber. We'll get into that, how I made it. So I have not been medically prescribed a cane, but decided to do this and make an elegant cane for a more civilized age. So starting out with the handle, I went with Anakin's lightsaber, 3D printed PLA, believe 2mm walls and 0 infill. Was in 5 parts. The bottom section, this section, and then the top section, and then the button. And it had the space here for this button. I didn't think about printing another one, so kind of went with ILM's designs and used some old model tank parts and created a button there. Just glued it in. Got it sanded down and filled in. I'm only really worried about this seam line here. We'll see how it turns out after I do some filler primer on it. And hopefully the rest of it's pretty smooth. Didn't sand the windshield wiper grips here just to give it some texture, since it's supposed to be quote-unquote rubber. So I didn't sand that down really, just so when I paint it black it'll give it a little bit of textured look. And then on the bottom, did sand it down and bevel it because it was just straight flat, and pressing it into my hand it was a little uncomfortable. So I went ahead and did a little bevel sand around the edges just to make it a little bit more comfortable when it'll be in your hands. And then just have the hanger bolt in there. Filled it all with epoxy resin, and then put the hanger bolt in there, ready for the blade. And I had to cut off the little circular piece that was here just so we can get it down on there. But I'll more than likely paint a silver band on the blade once I get it installed to continue that look. But yep, that's that so far. I was just letting this dry after gluing it on, and we'll start the primer. All right, for the blade, going to be using a, I believe, 1 1/4 inch dowel, wood dowel. Don't have a lathe, so I'm using the poor man's method. Have it mounted to the drill and sanding it down while using the drill and a piece of sandpaper and doing it lightly at the top and then more down to the bottom to get a tapered look. Just a little bit of a taper down to it. And I had planned on doing some metal inlay on the sides, and you can kind of see here I started carving it out with a Dremel and then using solder to fill it in, but the solder just kept rolling off. I guess because it was round, I'm not sure, but the solder just wasn't sticking in there and kept rolling off. As you can see, just kept falling off. So filled this in with some epoxy and going to probably just use some gold leaf to get the lettering and symbols that I want on there. So here, just doing a quick demonstration of how I sanded down the dowel. Had already done this before, but just giving it another sand down with 80 grit, then 100 grit, and then 400 grit, or excuse me, 220 grit. Now I'm going to start painting it using unicorn spit, gel stain, blue. That way it just gets in there and stains the wood. The unicorn spit really worked well. Got deep into the wood and spread pretty evenly. So did the first coat, let it dry, and thought that the blue was a little too dark. So I mixed in some white acrylic paint with the gel stain and went back over it. So I let that second coat dry and then went back, added some royal blue mica powder just to give it a candied kind of shimmery look to it. Now I'm going to start doing the silver leaf. This is my first time ever doing silver leaf. Already applied the glue, let it set and dry for about 30 minutes. Just doing the two symbols here. Overall, pretty easy, very messy. I think the key thing is let the glue dry and then go back and brush off all the excess. But I think these turned out really well on the blade. So here's the hilt. And just to kind of go over it, did the Vallejo silver on the body all over, and then did a red mica powder for the buttons, and then copper for the extrusions there, and on the switch and little clasp, black on the grips, and then a metallic silver for the screws, and went and did the silver leaf on the middle part here. Not too happy how that turned out. Was hoping it would be a little bit more smooth and flat, but the color looks good. And then just a green inside of there. Went and filled in between these pieces with some UV resin. That way they don't get broken off. It's plastic and very thin. If it was being used as a walking stick would definitely get broken off, so filled that in to make it more secure and solid, so you don't have to worry about them breaking off. And then just did several coats of polyurethane. And that's pretty much it. And also put the Rebel Alliance symbol on the bottom there. That is it for the hilt. And for the blade, did the silver leaf for the Jedi Order there, and then the Rebel Alliance. And then here did Arabish, it says Micah Makes. Kind of pleased with the leafing, especially this part here. Came out really well. The bottom part, after putting down the glue, I took off the stencil kind of as an experiment, I guess, just to see which one would be easier to pull off and have better lines on it. So left the stencil on this part, and that came out better after putting the leafing down, then just took it all off. This one really messed up. Didn't maybe let the glue dry enough before I took the stencil off, but the glue really messed up, and so after putting the leafing down, had to go back and fix a lot of areas on these letterings. But overall turned out pretty well. And then on the bottom, just have a furniture foot, and painted the topmost portion of it there to kind of match the blade, so it wasn't just a black thing at the end of it. And we will get them both put together, and probably another couple coats of polyurethane, and we will check it out. And then made a quick little acrylic mount for the wall, so when I'm not using it, and definitely don't need to use it until then, I figured it'd be a nice little place on the wall to display with my Galaxy's Edge lightsaber. So just a final rundown. Put a furniture rubber foot on there, painted it to kind of match the blue on the blade, and it's just pushed up on there with tension in case it ever messes up or gets tore up and can replace it. Then have the Rebel Alliance symbol, and then the Jedi Order symbol on the blade. I don't know if you can see kind of that iridescent candied look to the blade with the mica powder. And did go back and paint in the emitter ring on there to complete the look. 5-minute epoxied the blade into the handle. Did a couple more coats of polyurethane to protect it. Still not happy about how the foil leafing came out on there, just the lines in it and stuff, but I do like that it's shiny. And that stuff is messy doing that leafing, so word of caution when you're doing it, be prepared for a lot of mess and clean up doing that. But I believe it came out overall and definitely looks like Anakin's lightsaber. Oh yeah, and on this side have the Arabesh again, says Micah Makes. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and a comment. And if you're not, hit the subscribe button. That way you're notified the next time I post a video. Again, unsure what my next project will be, but hopefully it will be something soon. And again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.